Hello and welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast for Ospreys fans by Ospreys fans. Those of you watching on YouTube will see that we don't have Yestin this week. Much like Keelan Giles, he picked up an injury before recording started. So joining me this week, the man from the other side, the man who, the only other person I know from other than Harley loves spreadsheets. It is Huw Griffin from every rugby podcast you probably listen to. How are we, Huw?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. I won't say it's a pleasure to be on because I'm on the wrong side of the podcasting planet, but it's nice to see you either way.
Just wait till Lee finds out. I haven't actually told him yet that you've made an appearance. You are the Simon Gardner of the podcast. Just making your way slowly through, and then as you go, you'll be another, inadequate Welsh rugby player.
So the Dragons one's the only one I've not done yet. They don't really need me. They got bloody Colin Chavis on theirs.
Yeah, they get all the celebrity guests on.
Yeah.
But that's more like a music panel show than it is an actual rugby podcast.
Well, they don't want to talk about rugby, do they? What are we going to say? We lost again. Anyway.
We're owned by a kebab man. Big up David Just Eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Huw, you are obviously on the Scarlet Fever podcast with Martin. Well, I say with Martin, when Martin can turn up.
Yes, Martin occasionally makes an appearance.
And our one true overlord, Lee G, the man who owns all our souls. And you're also on the Pirate Rugby podcast.
Yes,
talk to us a bit about that.
So we had Harley on this week, and
slow week.
Yeah, well, it was a spreadsheet heavy one, so I wanted to get a fellow spreadsheeter. Although we've had a couple of spreadsheeters on before, like Kean, aka Rugby Kino, is a big spreadsheet man, and we've had him on before, and he gave some really he was doing like standard deviation and things live on the pods and stuff. It was great. But yeah, so the whole concept behind that was that we do the obscure stuff. So we talk about the rugby that no one else is talking about. And since the URC has come back, it's just become like a URC general pod. So we talk about the South Africans and the Italians and things, as well as I talk about Welsh stuff. Enda talks about Irish stuff. Enda's a Connacht fan. And so we are, as far as I'm aware, we're the only specialist URC podcast. Like, obviously there's the Rap family does all the Welsh regions, and there's loads of Irish pods that do Irish provinces, but there isn't a URC podcast anymore since Under the Sticks is gone, and that terrible thing with James Hook on it got cancelled. So
what was the URC one used to do? Shanklin used to be on it. Was that Under the Sticks?
Oh no, yeah, there's that one. So Under the Sticks was Andy McGeady, Sean Holly, and
oh yes,
Paul Williams.
That's why I didn't listen to it, because McGeady and Holly.
What? I really liked it. I thought it was good fun. So there was a Premier Sports one with John Barkley, Tom Shanklin, and I can't remember who the other guy was. Probably an
John
Irish
Barkley.
Guy. Oh, no, Stephen Ferris.
Oh, that's why I stopped listening to it then, because Ferris is an arsehole.
Well, obviously, John Barkley, being a former Scarlets captain, he gets lots of love and respect from me. But he did on multiple podcasts just admit, I didn't watch any of the games. I was out having a nice time. So you just think, oh, okay. And then the one with I think it was Darren Cave, James Hook, and I don't even know who the other one was. It might have been John Barkley, and that was just like, God bless James Hook. He's not one of life's talkers. How he's got a job on Scrum 5.
that was the Void of Personality podcast, because Darren Cave is not much better. Yeah, he's like, if you took all the personality out of Tommy Bowe, you'd get Darren Cave.
I think he's a bit of a wannabe Andy Good, isn't he?
But, and I like Darren Cave as well.
Wise. Yeah.
The one with Shanklin and that was a good one, because he used to get coaches on all the time. And yes, Toby Booth always came on that one. He spoke really well on that. That was genuinely. I listened to the Welsh centric ones, but yeah. So the only URC centric podcast is quite good.
I'll play me
And
until someone tells me I'm wrong.
you're going from strength to strength. You've got your Friday breakfast show that you do as well.
Yeah, Friday breakfast show is a 15-minute mini pod for all the midweek games, of which there are none this week, so it's going to be a bit tricky. But like, so most of the things that we talk about on the Friday breakfast show, because they're the only Thursday night games, are Pro Day 2 and Welsh Premiership. So they always get plenty of airtime in that show, which means that I actually watch the Welsh Premiership now, which is
a lot of regional affinity, a lot of affinity in that section of the pod. Then is
a lot of affinity. Oh, you know what? I was stunned. I tuned into the Welsh Premiership on S4C YouTube channel, and there was like 80,000 people in the stands. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's like watching like the Madrid derby or something.
It was. That's exactly what it was like. I just was watching it thinking, God, that's a lot of affinity right there.
Who wouldn't want to be at Dunraven Brewery Field watching Bridgend versus Newport right now?
What was the one that was on last week?
That was Bridgend Newport. That was Bridgend Newport. And the Matt O'Brien reverse pass, yeah.
Oh my God.
I watched the first half and I thought, ooh, Bridgend look a bit competitive here. And then had to do something for the second half, looked at the final score and, no, okay. Normal order has resumed.
Who's that 10 that you used to have? He went bald when he was like 20.
Luke Price.
Yeah, Luke Price. So he plays for Bridgend now. And he was injured. I don't know if you caught this. He was injured and he wasn't playing. And I don't know if it was Lauren Jenkins or someone else on the sideline. Lauren Jenkins is massively overqualified to be doing the touchline interviews in the Welsh Premiership. But anyway,
she does them also. She's brilliant.
Yeah, she is. But she asked him like, "What? Have you picked up a knock in training?" And he's like, "Not quite." And she's like, "What were you doing?" And he goes, "Well, I was working on the farm, and I was milking a cow. See, and the cow took a disliking to whatever I was doing, and the cow kicked me, and that's why I'm not fit to play." So
he went out to Pro Day 2.
He did.
He had, I think, a season a bit in Pro Day 2.
Yeah.
But if there was a man ever less suited to the violence of Pro Day 2, it was Luke Price. Yeah, I'll talk about Luke Price in a section later. Who did he go to? I want to say
his Wikipedia page is not long.
Luke Price was a person.
It literally says where he was born. He played for Wales under 20s, and it says he's played for Aberavon, Neath, Swansea, and Bridgend.
He is very heavily involved in Abercrave RFC because the last time I played in Abercrave, he was standing on the sideline shouting backs moves, which wasn't needed because they were smashing us about 57-3. I was like, lads, just put it through the hands. It's easier. You don't have to run a dummy switch pop, honestly. Let's go into the news desk. Yeston is very sorry you can't be here for the final pod of the year. But, it is an injury crisis at the minute in Welsh rugby, apparently. I blame budget cuts personally.
I do.
Yeah, so he will be back.
Apparently, Toby Booth's cup of tea went cold, bloody budget cuts.
Probably would at Llandarcy. Let's go into the news desk. But there is actually no news from an Ospreys point of view. For once, it has been a very, very quiet week, apart from two things, actually. I won a competition where I am going to get some kicking lessons off some Ospreys players.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What did you do to win it?
I just entered in their 12 Days of Christmas thing. I entered at the start. I was like, maybe win like a hospitality box, maybe, a nice signed jersey or a signed ball. Nope. I get some kicking lessons, which is great, other than the fact that I'm a loosehead prop. So I've told my club I am going to return a 90% goal kicker. If needed.
I thought loosehead props were the most talented player on the team anyway.
True. But yeah, so I won that competition, and then also Justin Tipuric is in a moon boot.
Now, given that he injured his thumb against the Dragons, this has escalated quickly.
Look, I know the standard of physio in Welsh rugby is clearly low, right? Look at the injury list. But even I, not a physio, a man with a history degree, knows that your thumb and your ankle are not the same things. So Yeah, whether that's something that he is just fixing while he was having his 6 to 8 week layoff with his thumb, because he definitely did have surgery on his thumb. There is photo evidence out there with him in a sling and a cast on, but now he's in a moon boot. So clearly something's happening. Yeah, that's quite gutting. Other than that, the only news that relates to the Ospreys is to do with the Scarlets. And in the press conference today, which is I assume just the Scarlets one took place today because Ospreys haven't released anything yet. It is that red card merchant Sam Lousy is back in selection mix, and the man with the biggest arse in Welsh rugby, Joe Roberts, is also back in selection mix. Huw, how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, everyone's back from our injury list.
Well, Sam Lousy was actually injured.
Well, the rumour was that he was actually back in his bags, but that appears to now be not true. But yeah, obviously great news for both of those. Like the difference between a functional midfield and a non-functional midfield is Joe Roberts, and him at 13. Like I genuinely, and the competition isn't mad, but I genuinely think he's the best 13 in Wales. And I was noting down what I think my regional team of the year so far is, and I got to the outside centre, and I was like, Jesus, there are no candidates to be the regional 13 of the season so far.
Yeah,
like I'm not putting Ray Lilo in just because he ran past a few Bath players the other night. Like Reece Priestland did that to Sale last year.
Yeah, in terms of 13, you could Mason Grady's played his best rugby at wing.
Yep.
Owen Watkin, when he's been at 13, is defensively brilliant, but as you'll allude to many times in this pod, Ospreys backs don't get the ball, which is fair enough. I couldn't even tell you who the Dragons 13 is.
Steph Hughes has been flicking between the two,
but he's not had a good season at all. He's probably been the weakest part of the Dragons game.
Well, he's their captain, isn't he? He's got to play.
Yeah. And yeah, so by default, it's Joe Roberts, which is a very Scarlets way to win, is by default. And then the other piece of news, the piece of news is that it has been revealed that there's over 9,000 tickets being sold, which is mad considering the Scarlets have not advertised this game whatsoever.
Yes, we on the Scarlets Fever are claiming credit for this because we ranted and raved about how the Scarlets aren't promoting games on social media compared to the other three regions, and then a couple of other people tweeted it, like
One more gap did, didn't they?
Yeah, tweeted that Scarlets haven't tweeted about this game on Boxing Day in 2 weeks, and then the Scarlets did 3 tweets in 3 hours about it that afternoon, and leaked to Simon Thomas that there were 9,000 tickets sold. So obviously someone's had a kick up the arse in the Scarlets to get the news out, and it is kind of surprising, really, given how terrible we are and that they didn't advertise it at all, that 9,000 fans have just decided to turn up out of habit. I don't know.
Yeah, the Boxing Day one is very much a family. I've been to a few of the Boxing Day games there. I don't, and the whole family generally, like at least myself and my grandfather, who always go to the games anyway, and then at least my mother and father will go, and then whether like my brother will. So yeah, it is generally a family affair. Whereas like Scarlets versus Zebra or Ospreys versus Benetton are just for your people who want to go watch rugby. So I think on just tradition alone, they would have probably sold at least 7,500, not 7.5 tickets. Yeah, I'm a frequent flyer on the Scarlet Fever forum, mainly for comedy purposes, because it is genuinely a funny thing. But he is right though. You put out the pod on Monday. Tuesday, sorry, you loads of post on Scarlets Fever, Glamour Gap, and then all of a sudden Simon Thomas, who isn't even like Welsh rugby's top journalist now. He's because since he's left Wales Online, he's like writing for Nation Cymru or the programs of each regional team, he's the one getting the leak, not even Steph Thomas or someone like that. So, but look, 9,000 tickets, probably going to be about 10, just over 10 there, 10,000. We'll take that.
Definitely.
They were only opening 2 stands for it though. Am I right in saying, or was it 3?
I haven't heard or seen that. I don't know because the capacity is 14,800. So I don't know whether you can fit 10 in just the north and south stands. I don't know. I don't know.
No heat map though.
No heat map.
You feel strongly
there must
about the
be
heat
someone
map,
centrally who makes these. There must be someone because Cardiff Ospreys and Dragons ones are all pretty much the same. So there must be some person in Wales who is doing them. So why can't
either that or it comes off the ticketing website, because it just could be off the ticketing. They just send over like what stats they've sold so far. Is what I would say.
As far as I can tell, now someone tried to explain to me that this isn't the case, so maybe I'm just being thick. There isn't a link on the Scarlets website to get to the tickets. The Scarlets Twitter posts a link, and that takes you to your website. Someone, don't you? The Scarlets always say the box office is open and you can ring this number, like it's 1980. But they tweet it, and they do tweet out, use this link, but that link is for not the Scarlets website, it's for the tickets website.
Because it's 1980, the men have one phone number they call, and then the wives and girlfriends will have another phone number.
The wives and girlfriends aren't allowed to use the phone, mate. We're not quite there yet. This is a joke. This is a joke. We're laughing at
the laugh of the Blazers. I haven't actually got my hands on Seymour Williams' book yet, but I will be. I might pick that up to read over Christmas. On my many journeys, I did read do you remember the Ross Harris book that came out a few years ago? He did one about just like the whole of Welsh rugby.
Can I tell you something? I haven't read a book in at least 10 years.
I hadn't either, and I was a very drunk university student. But I read this book on Welsh rugby.
How do you get a history degree without reading a book?
Very easily. You get to sort of like between the mid 60s and the 90s, and it's just the misogyny and the Blazers and I wasn't shocked, but I was shocked.
Yeah,
and it was just like, how have we not burnt this organization to the ground?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's move on quickly before we get cancelled. And I'm going to get a very angry message off Lee. European weekend part 2. Not a good weekend for all of the Welsh regions. 4 losses, 2 probably in a better shape than the other 2. Dragons pushed Poe really close. Us too. I'm trying to avoid saying that. Dragons pushed Poe really close. That was a really good game. I watched that. Dragons took their tries well. Cardiff restored pride in Welsh rugby by 1 sec. Let me check my notes. Losing to Bath in a.
That was when Llanelli beat the All Blacks 30 points to 3, and Cardiff losing at home to Bath. Yeah. That's the 3 high points, high watermarks in Welsh rugby history.
The hyperbole of the game. And Cardiff played really well, right? They played better.
Played okay.
They played better than
defense
had
was
any
optional
right to do. Yeah, but defense is optional for both teams. Both teams are fundamentally unserious.
Yes.
And individually, like Teddy Williams, probably the game of his life. That handoff and pass I've watched many times, more than that clip you've posted of Steph Evans getting put into touch, which we'll talk about. Don't worry. But to then come out of that game and say they've restored pride in Welsh rugby, they've lost 2 in the Champions Cup, right? Yes, Toulouse are probably an unstoppable juggernaut right now.
Yeah,
but you still lost 2. And I don't want to harp on about this.
They conceded 90 points in 2 games.
We won 3 out of 4 pool games last year. We went to Welford Road and won. We went to Montpellier and won. And we beat Montpellier at home with a bonus point last year. Come on, there's levels to this game. Just because you you tried really hard against, Alfie Barbary doesn't make you Welsh rugby saviours. It's all in jest, mainly to wind Harley up. And of course, now they've got their blood money, they will be signing, the likes of Quade Cooper and Antoine Dupont and whoever they want, essentially.
Well, I have found, I don't know why, because I've never ever said anything bad about Cardiff, but their fans are the ones who hate me the most.
And that's a
Don't understand
competition
what it
because
is.
you have a lot of haters. Like
I
a lot.
don't. I understand. It's just Cardiff fans. It's just Cardiff fans. Like I've got South African people I get on with fine. Most Irish people, apart from the ones who are being deliberately facetious, are fine. Scottish people, the two that I know, are great. And Scarlets fans, yeah, they listen to the pod, obviously. Cardiff fans really really queue up to give me shit.
Look, they're just that natured, It's a standalone thing. I've avoided talking about it long enough. The Montpellier game. Montpellier scored lots of points. Ospreys didn't. It was always going to be a tough ask anyway. At the start of the week, I was like, "Oh, do you know what? We've done them twice. We've got their number." Then the squad came out, and I was like, "It's going to be hard, but there's the possibility we could get a result out there." And then an hour before kickoff, Morgan Morrissey, captain, pulls out, and Keelan Giles pulls out, the senior member of the. It's mad to say that Keelan Giles is a senior member of the squad because he's the same age as me. But he is a senior member of the squad, and also knows where to stand defensively, which helps as a winger. Both pulled out, which meant that Harry Houston made his first pro start, as well as Morgan Morse did. So two 12-year-olds. Morgan Morse, who is basically 100 cap under 20 international, and Harry Houston's got an eerily similar amount of caps at under 20 level. And then hooker Lewis Lloyd, who is also 12, covered the back row on the bench. So that's where we were in terms of squad depth coming into that game. And then we were just physically outmuscled. I've said on the Eyrie Twitter, everyone knows that I like to shit post on there, but we could sit here and list all day why we lost, but at the end of the day, we weren't good enough.
You had a lot of ball in the first half.
We had a lot of ball the whole game, but physically we couldn't go through them, and we are inept at putting the ball past 12.
Well, you kept trying to ship the ball to George North as quickly as possible, but because it had to go through two passes to get to him, by the time he got the ball, that any depth he had in attack was just gone, and he was receiving the ball by the time a man had gotten to him. So he was just going down where he stood. So we're Scarlets and Ospreys are quite similar. That our attacks are just so flat, and it is just give it to the guy to the left of you.
What summed it up for me is when we went first phase off a line-out, we tried to use Luke Scully, and for listeners, I am saying Luke Scully in the same way that we would use a Kieran Williams. And at that point, I had to get up and breathe. Like I had to walk away from my iPad because I got physically angry, and I came back to a message off yesterday saying, if that doesn't sum up this game, I don't know what does.
But then at the end of the game, you started playing with some depth. Like it didn't work at all, but you started doing a few moves.
Rhys Henry gassed George Bridge, and that made it all better.
He twice on the wing, he did that. I saw.
Look, he's an enigma of a man, and I love him. And he thinks everyone picks Rhys Henry to be a joke, right? I want to address this right now. I love him because he's a meme. Okay, like he's a throwback. I know Rhys a bit. I used to play against him. I played with him briefly. He's a lovely bloke, right? Really, really nice guy. But the thing is, he's genuinely a really solid rugby player. Like, he came on, he was solid in the scrum. He carried when asked. He's got a lovely pair of hands. And I
Yeah.
think that often gets lost because of the way he looks. He's very old school obviously in that sense, and his hair or lack of hair. But he is genuinely a very good rugby player.
Yeah.
And he gassed George Bridge on the wing twice. And if I was George Bridge, I would give back all my All Blacks test caps.
But it's an irrefutable fact that he did gas him twice on the wing. But was it just before half time you did that really terrible tap and go move? Was
Yeah.
it Ruben
So
Morgan
so
Williams
so
tapped
so,
it?
so it wasn't someone called it. Right, clearly went rather than either
Oh no,
taking the
Owen
points or
Williams did it.
taking
No,
the
I remember
scrum.
now. Owen Williams pretended not to know what the move was. It was like part of the
Mm-hmm.
whole deception.
Yeah,
And he was like, What are we doing? Oh, pass, and then you got smashed.
that would work if we were against like a Scarlets or a Zebra, not against Jan Serfontein and you know this big massive Montpellier pack. Who, by the way, at that point I conceded 3 penalties in the scrum. Why will we? I get the risk going for the scrum, but Tom Boter literally had their loose head on toast. Like their loose head had nothing. Why didn't we go for the scrum? Other notable quote from the game: we lost Nicky Smith to injury in the first half. Um, Hopefully, that's not a long-term thing because
Was it a head
how
knock?
important it is. No, it didn't look like a head knock. I thought it was originally, but it didn't ever at one point say HIA, which
Okay.
made me think it was a straight sub. And then we lost Owen Watkin at half time. And part of the reason why I think Ospreys defended so badly, and why I am now convinced that George North has been labelled good at 13, is because he's had a winger outside him all the time who knows where to stand defensively. So he's making George North look better than he is. When you've got someone like Harry Houston who's never played professional rugby or hit puberty, he's George North is basically having to do the work of two players at once because George North knows how to stand defensively at 13, but also at 14 or 11. Harry Houston doesn't. So if George North bites in, Harry Houston should follow him. Or if George North blitzes, Harry Houston needs to blitz as well. But there was not that. There was no coherence at 13. And it's no coincidence we've looked best defensively when Owen Watkin is at 13. And then all his faults, Luke Morgan knows where to stand. Oh, apologies. Or you've got Keelan Giles, who I think is very underrated defensively in terms of his blitz and making his tackles and whatnot. But having George North there, he looked, he was like a rabbit in the headlights. He planted a lot. You talk about rugby coaching terms of being always on your feet, quick on your feet, not planting. So you're basically not able to get round you. But he just looked like he'd been house hunting in France all weekend. And I genuinely think having Owen Watkin at 12 when he's not a natural 12, he's a 13. And Kieran Williams then is a massive, it's a much better. I know Kieran is, is probably attacking quite one dimensional, and he's aware of that as well. But he's very good defensively. And when you have someone like Owen Watkin, who's clearly been sleeping with Mark Jones and they know the defensive layout, and having two wingers, then, someone like Keelan Giles, someone Luke Morgan, Toby Fricker, who is, mid to late 20s, so he's got that experience. Don Morris, if you can play wing, when Daniel Kasende was there, he's been around the block. He's 28 now. So when you're not having a child next to you, you're basically doing the work of two people. So, look, tough old game, not helped by the refereeing team.
It was surprising. I mean, it's a funny stat, an objectively funny stat. You give away 6 penalties all game, and you get 3 yellow cards. Like that is quite remarkable. But as you said on rap, they weren't like that was never a yellow. They were yellows, but 15 penalties for Montpellier and not even a warning from the referee. I thought they should have had a yellow card on about 35 minutes.
Well, I thought after the fourth scrum penalty, I know it was the The loose head was giving away the bulk of the penalties, and the tight head gave away one against Gareth Thomas. But even then, if I was a referee and as a prop myself who's been in that situation, it doesn't matter. For me, that's a yellow card. That's like one of the I hate like the unwritten laws of rugby union is the 3 penalty rule. You're at least on a warning.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like the breakdown, he penalises them for crawling through the breakdown. And then the next time they crawl through the breakdown, he lets it play on and they pick the ball up and score. Like, it's just the levels of inconsistency. And, there's that one where they scored when their player was holding Morgan Morse on the floor. And I thought if they don't come back to this now, I'm going to declare war on someone.
But they did come back for it.
They did go back to it, and my rage was contained ever so slightly. But look, I have no complaints. Really,
but did you see the bit where the touch judge went and looked at the screen, the big screen, and the sun was shining off him, and he went to like something out of a horror show?
I messaged Squidge this in the first half, right? Because I knew if I messaged you, I'd get a sarcastic reply about how you're shit and you're blaming the sun now. And I said, am I the only one who thinks the sun is incredibly harsh, or is it just like the way the TV is like presenting it? And they get to that shot then, and it's just like, how can anyone play rugby in that? That is horrific. That is the worst sunlight. And no wonder the Ospreys, they've never seen sun like that. They've never seen the sun, let alone sun like that.
Poor old Harry Houston. Even when he played in the under-20s in South Africa, it was pissing it down the whole time he was there.
Morgan Morse, I think, was birthed in the rain. Like, I don't think he's ever seen it. He's like Bane in the bad one from Christopher Nolan. He's just born in that pit, and he's never seen sunlight.
Yeah.
But thankfully the game's over. What remains to be seen now is obviously what the injury fallout is from that. The main ones, and we'll talk about the game in a bit, is Jack Morgan going to be fit? Is Rhys Davies going to be fit?
I don't believe that Jack Morgan is injured. I'm just putting it out there.
Same here with Rhys Davies as well. Is Kieran Williams going to be fit? And then Morgan Morris sounds like it was more precautionary than anything, in the fact that he could have played, but he wouldn't be 100%. And then Keelan Giles has struggled a lot this season with injury. So, my main thing is Kieran, is Rhys Davies, Jack Morgan. Are they?
I don't know if you've noticed this. It's something I've noticed with the Scarlets, is that our internationals who've been away with Wales, with the exception of Sam Costello, who got injured whilst he was with Wales, they've come back and they've been playing 80 minutes after 80 minutes after 80 minutes, and they've been okay. It's the players who have stayed behind at regional level who are the ones who are getting injured all the time.
I'm trying to think. Don Morris got injured, but he gets injured all the time at Saracens anyway. Who are the big ones? Will Griffiths looked more like a break than it did like just like your hamstring has gone or something like that. So I'll forgive him for that. The same with Justin Tipuric. Maybe I'd have to look into like what injuries are, whether they're like, pardon me again, the hamstring is gone, or like whether it's just like you've broken your arm. Like James Ratty, for example, he's done his shoulder and fractured it, compared to like a Don Morris where you've torn your hamstring. Like a Max Nagy, for example, that was a freak accident out in Benetton where he lands, dislocated his foot. That's more than it's a really weird. I do get what you mean though, in terms of it does seem like the ones who've been at Wales maybe are in such physical condition where it's not like they can't get injured. It's so much harder.
Yeah. They're not getting like fatigue injuries.
No, but yeah, whether like the Jack Morgan one is an injury or whether it was just like you're too injured this week, but you'll be fine for Boxing Day, because it is a 10-day turnaround. Let's not not forget that it's a longer turnaround than it is for even longer one for you, because you lost on Friday and you would have spent Saturday, Sunday, curtains shut in the house crying. Then your players will come out on Monday.
Yeah.
Before we go into the game, that's it. The Montpellier game's done now. If you wanted more in depth look, we should have won. There was nothing to analyze apart from the scrum was good. We weren't very good otherwise. I asked on Twitter what our favourite moments from the derbies were. As we're not on until after Christmas now, we are going to be looking at both the West Wales derby at the Parc y Scarlets on Boxing Day, and I don't think it has a name, but the two teams no one likes derby.
A Tale of Two Cities?
Could be. The James Ratty derby.
The Gareth Anscombe derby.
The Gareth Anscombe physio room derby. Poor man. On New Year's Day at the Brewery Field. I asked on Twitter people's favourite moments from said derby, and a few of you got in touch, but Huw and I have also collated our favourite moments from the derbies. Let's see. Where are we? So, Jack Roberts, this is one of my favourite ones. Dimitri Arhip sprinted down the touchline to hand the ball off to Eli Walker.
Yeah, I saw that one earlier in my highlights watching.
Dimitri Arhip, a very underrated prop. Will go down as a legend. I met him at the club shop once, and he was on FaceTime.
Did you know that he's Moldovan?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He was on FaceTime to his family back in Moldova.
Right.
And then he went to the cashier. He was like trying to work out the size difference between like EU and UK. And he did that. Then he picked like 5 kits off the shelf and just took them to the register. He sent them back to his family in Moldova. But he wasn't the nicest man in the world. And then Eli Walker, what a man! Career cut too short. Me and Yeston spoke about this a lot. I went to school with his brother, and Eli was the nicest man ever. And a career really cut too short. Yeah, he retired at like 26 or something like that. But really good. And then Chris Jones. This is another great one. He wouldn't remember this because rugby wasn't invented until 2017. Paul James scoring 2 tries at Parc y Scarlets, and then in 2010 being on the way to Liberty, only to be told the game is off because of frozen pipes. Very Ospreys. And then the next day, hammering the Scarlets 60 points to 17, which I'll come on to in a minute. But Paul James and scoring 2 tries does not sound like it should be in the same sentence together.
He'll get a strongly worded letter from the front row union, as Phil Steele would say.
Phil Steele, what a man! Yeah, how does he? Do you reckon Phil Steele like hates Dewi Lakeland?
Oh yeah, maybe he does.
Or all hookers now.
Yeah. Like what's his name? John Matthews up in.
Yeah. Johnny Matthews was disqualified from the front row union ages ago.
Yeah. Bastard.
So, Huw, what were your favourite moments from the West Wales derby?
So in preparation for this, I hopped on the old YouTube and I had a look down some highlights. Now, I didn't stray much further back than 2017 because there was no rugby before then. And watching some just reminded me of how ropey some of the highlight edits for the URC have been in the past.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember for a whole season they used to cut off the first try of the game?
Yep. Or like the first penalties. All of a sudden it'd be like 14 minutes and say 9-6. I was like, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah, but it happened for every single game. So not only was whoever was making these highlights like incredibly inept, but no one was checking them. No, like the URC commercial director wasn't hopping on YouTube and thinking, I'll just see what the high edit is and go, oh, they've cut off the first try. I'll have a word on Monday. And that obviously wasn't happening. But anyway, highlights are mostly scraps. My highlights are mostly scraps. So I'm going to count down my top 3 Scarlets Ospreys scraps. So in at number 3, Keelan Giles versus Ken Owens in 2017, last game of the season, where Keelan Giles scores the first try of the game. gets up and starts giving it to Keno and starts giving it, and then we put about 50 on you from then on in the game.
Yeah.
So that didn't go very well, Keelan. Number 2.
Keelan Giles would have been about 12 in that clip as well.
Yes. Number 2, Reece Webb versus Gar Davis. This one was at the Liberty, as was. And it was at like the first scrum of the game. And the referee, had given the talk of like, I don't want any funny business, all right? And then it was the one where I think it was Reece Davis put his arm into Gareth Davis's neck. I'm sorry, Reece Webb put his arm into Gareth Davis's neck, and he had Dan Biggar holding onto him behind. And there was the 3 of them in the middle of the pitch. And the play was like 50 meters back that way. But those two were having a bit of a scrap. And to be honest,
not a fight.
In a West Wales derby, if the 2 scrum half sent up a fight, what's the point?
Historically, that wasn't a fight over rugby. That was a fight over tannin products. My tan's better than yours.
And then in at number 1, my favourite ever Scarlets Ospreys fight was in the 44 points to 0 game. So Ospreys embarked on one of their many doomed attacks of that game, and Jake Ball got into a fracas. I don't know who it was with. I remember it being a particularly small Ospreys player, and Jake Ball was lying on top of him on the halfway line. Ospreys break downfield and get up to the Scarlets try line. Scarlets turn the ball over, counter-attack, and run backfield, running again past the fight that was still happening on the halfway line. Carry on. Scarlets score. Referee chalks it off and brings it back because of the fight. Because Jake Ball lying on this guy. And he'd been lying on him for a good minute and a half at this point. Enough for the teams to go coast to coast twice.
Jake Ball, that would have been in the 80th minute because Jake Ball got a yellow card. That was literally the last play of the game.
Right.
That brings me on to the 44-0. And I've chosen this one. You're probably thinking, James, you're a Scarlets fan. Why have you chosen where we lost 44-0? Because it reminds me of where we are now and how grateful I am. So, for those who don't know, Ospreys went through a bit of a rough patch around 2018. I think this was the season we won 2 games. And one of them we definitely deserved to win. But anyway.
Was it Zebra and Dragons was who you beat?
No, I think one of them was Ulster, weirdly.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that now.
And it is because Ali Davis
remember a couple of seasons ago, the Dragons beat Connacht out in Galway, and they looked amazing. Mm-hmm. And then they didn't win a game for the rest of the season.
So, this is the Scarlets team that won 44-0. So, Wyn Jones, Ken Owens, Samson Lee.
Great front row.
Great. Jake Ball and Sam Losey. They've never had a better second row since. Aaron Shingler, Josh McLeod, Blade Thompson.
Blade Thompson was an NFT, but apart from that, all good.
Yeah. Blade Thompson was apparently Scottish. 9, Gareth Davis, standard. 10, Angus O'Brien. This is when he was
me. I always felt he was a fullback. People disagree with me on this. I think I'm in a minority. I think he's better at fullback than 10.
11, Steph Evans. This is when he was good, though. This is when he was scoring tries, like for fun. 12, Hadley Parks, in the peak of his powers.
What a player.
13, Steph Hughes. 14 was 12-year-old Ryan Combier. And 15 was Lee Halfpenny. And then a handy bench as well. Brian Elias, Phil Price. Never had a better prop. And
he scored 2 tries in the game once as well.
Werner Kruger, who has gone viral again this week from that Stormers team that came up in 2011, where I had to do a double take. It was like, hang on a minute, he tipped me in a pub around this time.
I think Brock Harris is in that team as well.
Brock Harris was also in that team.
Super Sports put out a load of pictures of Brock Harris from his 400 game career. Not a single Dragons picture in it.
I respect
absolutely
that.
Mugged off. But Werner Kruger, Scarlets legend.
Was Tavita Ratuva. 20, Uzia Kasim. 21, Kieran Hardy. 22, the ghost of Ryan Lamb. And 23, a man who I've forgotten existed, Paul Asquith.
Paul Asquith. I've got a note of Paul Asquith. What a player. He was a proper utility back. He could play.
He was Michael Collins before Michael Collins.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And then this is where it all goes wrong for the Ospreys.
Can I just quickly say, Uzi Kasim
Go on.
searches his own name on Twitter.
Yes, he does. I've heard this as well. So it starts off Nicky Smith for the Ospreys. Good start. Scott Otten, very fine player on his day, retired far too young. Marfu Fia, again, fine player, bit lazy around the pitch. Also, one season had gout.
A professional rugby player who had gout.
Yeah. 4, Adam Beard. Was this is just before the 2019 Grand Slam, so he was on his way up.
He would have been undefeated in a Wales jersey.
He was undefeated in a Wales jersey at this point. Very much defeated in the Ospreys jersey. 5, 84-year-old Bradley Davis.
Okay, that's the first one where I'm starting to think that's not so good.
The pack isn't too bad.
This is very typical Ospreys claiming you've got a terrible team when you've actually got the best team.
Wait till you get to the backs. Number 6, Ollie Cracknell, the man who flattered to deceive.
Leicester Tigers legend.
Yeah, right. I liked Ollie Cracknell. I thought he was a good servant. Very one-dimensional player. Went to London Irish. I thought, great, fair enough. Get your payday, kid. Then weirdly was a starter for Leicester in their title-winning team. Anyway, and then rounded out with Justin Tipuric and Morgan Morris. Morgan Morris wasn't the player he was. This was still very young Morgan Morris. We were playing.
How old is Morgan Morris now?
He's 25 now, but he would have been. What's that? How many years ago now?
I assumed you would have still had like Dan Baker at number 8 or something back then.
Well, we get into the backs then. Aled Davis at 9, useless player.
Well, according to Squidge Rugby, the best 9 Wales has ever produced.
Number 10, Marty McKenzie.
Oh, one of the many failed Super Rugby converts.
The bad McKenzie brother. Number 11, Luke Morgan. Obviously picked up a yellow card in this game.
Yep.
Scott Williams at 12. Combi. Scott Williams at 12. Who you thought, all right, Scott Williams. Yeah. Agent Scott, who was always injured and also got injured after 4 minutes in this game.
Agent Scott, love it.
13, legend. 13, and I love this man. I roomed with him on tour. Tremanos legend, Tian Thomas Wheeler, who's now playing in Japan.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah, konnichiwa.
If you're listening.
Tian, yeah, I love you, but really didn't go well. Leslie Klim.
Never heard of him.
Leslie Klim was a Namibian international, right? And he was not very good, apart from when he played Racing 92, in which he scored 2 really, really good tries. And then he made about 8 appearances and never left and went somewhere else. And then Kai Evans at 15 before he was good. Like, before he was the Kai Evans we know now. This Kai Evans was awful. I don't think you understand. And then on the bench was the year he converted to hooker, Dewi Lake. So you can imagine how his darts were.
What was he before?
He was a back rower.
It's never good when your number gets lower, is it?
Reese Fawcett. I have no memory of this man. Agent Simon Gardner.
Scarlets Fever.
World Cup winner Marvin Eyrie. Who was on emergency loan from the Kings, I think, at the time. 20, Dan Lydiat, who was still 35, I think. Sean Venter, Cheetahs player, or former Cheetahs player. Luke Price.
Of being kicked by a horse fame. Cow even.
And a 44-year-old James Hook.
Yeah, did James Hook's return to the Ospreys after he'd been at Gloucester wasn't littered with highlights, was it?
No, really not. Ask Squidge about that. He will give you strong feelings.
I rewatched recently Squidge's first ever rugby video, which was Why Are the Ospreys So Shit? And he did his kick, pass, run, dummy counts for James Hook, and James Hook dummied more than he did anything else.
So that was a low point in the Ospreys. I remember I wasn't even at the game. I was at my grandparents and just wanted to cry. I was like, why have I come home for this? But what did make me happier was Ospreys 60, Scarlets 17 in 2010. One of our title winning years. Now, I'm not going to go through individual stuff. I watched the highlights. It was a very typical Scarlets Ospreys, lots of scrap. Duncan Jones will weirdly get into a lot of fights. Some notable players from each team. Barry Davis at 15 for the Ospreys. What a man. A back row of Jonathan Thomas, Marty Holler, and Jerry Collins. Jamie Nutbrown on the bench for the Ospreys, who scored a try. For the Scarlets, Hounds, if you remember some of these players, Martin Roberts at 9. What a man. A young Reece Priestland at 10.
What year was this?
2010, I believe.
So where was Reece playing? Was he playing at 10 or 15?
He was at 10, yes.
Okay, so this was but a year before he became the World Cup sensation.
It was. Dominic Day of CBD fame, where he went at Saracens and weirdly launched the CBD line with George Cruis. Ben Morgan at 8. This is one of the Scarlets' most underrated players ever.
One of the very few English players to come and play for a Welsh region.
Yes, he was. A young Ken on the bench.
Ken was never young.
Still sitting behind Matthew Rees at this point. Scarlets legend Rob McCusker.
I never thought Rob McCusker was any good, I'm being honest.
No, he wasn't good at the Ospreys either. But that was a good run on the way. 18,000 of that game. If you were, I know you like your attendance chat there, Huw.
Good crowd. I think the highest ever was 20 for this game.
Well, my next one is one I was at, and the only match I've taken my rugby hating girlfriend to was one of the most recent ones. And if you type in Ospreys v Scarlets on YouTube, I'm pretty sure it's the first one that comes up every time. Yeah. Is Ospreys 54, Scarlets 36. This was a mad game.
Did Johnny McNichol score a hat-trick in this game?
This is Ryan Conbeer scored a hat-trick in this game.
Right.
And he had to do essentially zero things to do all of them tries because Matt Prothero can't tackle for shit. So this game
face, obviously, as the Dragons found out.
Yeah. This game was refereed by Jakob Piper. This will be important for later.
Oh, just quickly on referees, because we know a friend and colleague and both of us is not pleased with the referee appointee for the forthcoming game.
Yes, I was going to bring this up in match review.
Craig Evans was the referee for the 44-0 game.
Yes, did message me that this very morning. He said, "Will you tell Lee this, please?"
Well, they watching back all of the old games, and they were all ref by Nigel.
Yes, this is the one game he was allowed to do, but it was Nigel, and it was always Derek Bevan as TMO because this was when it was still on the BBC, and the BBC, the best thing the BBC ever did was their rugby coverage, was have a camera in the TMO truck, not like they do now, where it's like suspended above and you could see the whole thing. It was weirdly zoomed in on their face. So you had like 80-year-old Derek Bevan.
It's only a small truck.
Who was struggling to read. He's got this camera in his face.
Yeah. But refereed by Nigel Lowens and Hadley Parks at 12. God, take me back.
Yeah. So this game in particular was mad because of obviously the scoreline. It was a packed stadium. I can't remember how it was, but it was good 12,000 there, I think. You know, which for the state we're in.
Let's see if I can find it. What year was this? It was last year.
2022, 30th of April, I believe.
All right, keep talking. I'll see if I can find it.
So, Scarlets lined up: Stephen Thomas, Ryan Elias, Javan Sebastian, Sam Lousy, Jack Price.
Scotland legends, Javan Sebastian.
Yeah, sorry. 6, Physio Merchant, Josh McLeod. 7, Thug, Thomas Lozana.
It was only 10,141.
Oh, okay. And then 8, Sione Calamafoni. Oh, how you miss him. 9, Gareth Davis. 10, very young Sam Costello. 11, Ryan Combier. 12, Johnny Williams. 13, Foxy. 14, Corey Baldwin. He'll be important in a minute. 15, Angus O'Brien. The ghost of Will Griff-John. David Hughes. Don't even think he's at the club anymore. Rob
Plays
Evans.
Cardiff now.
He does, you're right. Aaron Shingler was still somehow around. Kieran Hardy, ghost of Reece Patchell, and Steph Evans, who didn't even get on the pitch.
Oh, well.
Ospreys, Gareth Thomas, Dewi Lake, Thomas Francis, Oof.
Welsh
Adam,
first choice front row.
Adam Beard, Alan Wynne-Jones, Will Griffiths, Jack Morgan, Morgan Morris, Rhys Webb, Gareth Anscombe, Keelan Giles, Matt Prother and Alex Cuthbert make up the back three, with Owen Watkin and Michael Collins in the centres.
So I did loads of looking into the Ospreys last season, back in the summer. Your best midfield always had Michael Collins at 13.
Yes.
That's when you played your best.
Michael Collins was the reason we beat Leicester away. I will maintain this.
Because you brought him in as a fullback, but he wasn't a fullback. He is his best rugby he played at 13.
He preferred playing fullback, as far as I know. He liked playing fullback, but we saw him more as a centre, and it was really helpful that he could play fullback.
Yeah.
And then on the bench,
in the URC in this season, the season that we're talking about, you won fewer games than us with that team.
Yes. 16, Sam Parry. 17, Nicky Smith. 18, Tom Boter. This was the bottom squad phase. I liked this phase because this carried on to next season where we did quite well. Rhys Davis and Ethan Roots, Ruben Moore-Williams, Stephen Myler, and George North. Actually, if you go on my Twitter account at JamesReese8, you'll see my pinned tweet is a set of GIFs from this match where I looked at the Ospreys a bit when I brief stint into analysis. Now, on 48 minutes, the Ospreys make a break, I think through Keelan Giles, and they break down the wing. Corey Baldwin makes the tackle. Now, he goes to throw the ball up to pass to the next player, who I believe was like Michael Collins or someone like that. And Corey Baldwin very blatantly slaps it down. Now, stopping a try being scored. Now, Yakko, IREF, and Vibes Piper had a lengthy look at the TMO of this, a really, really long look, and decided that, the try wasn't going to be scored, but we're going to yellow card him anyway. And I remember, I hated South Africa at this point anyway, because we'd lost the Lions tour. I was apoplectic. The fact that of all people, Corey Baldwin has denied us, this glorious breakaway try, the most red herring of Ospreys tries. I was fuming because Scarlets didn't even play that bad. Right, this game wasn't an awful game if you're a Scarlet. Like Ryan Combiot's got a hat trick. Again, admittedly, only had to go around Matt Prothero. And then Sam Costello had a really good game, took the ball to the line really well.
As he always does, because he's excellent.
But Taylor's oldest type, Scarlets can't handle, teams who are physical. And that's what it was. It was genuinely just Ospreys, just kept knocking on the door.
Was this Glenn Delaney era Scarlets?
Well, didn't he go the season before, or am I?
No, it must have. Did we have anyone between Glenn Delaney and Dwayne? We didn't, did we?
It must have been.
I should know these things.
Glenn Delaney. It was a memorable game because Ospreys had a really nice they had a proper all black kit. It looked really
nice
good.
kit.
The Umbro kits looked really nice. We had the all black and the all white one that season because the card. I'm not going to talk about any Cardiff memorable one, but we went up to Cardiff that season and won 22-9, and it was beautiful because we had that all white kit on in the sun. The last game, quickly, I want to talk about before we go on to the actual preview of the derby is, again, in our title-winning year, Ospreys 32, Scarlets 3. Now, this game is notable for nothing apart from Scarlets finished the game with 12 men on the field in true Scarlets fashion.
Did you finish with 16 on?
Receiving a yellow card. And 2 red cards in the last. So Gareth Owen returned to the Liberty, obviously former Ospreys player, took out Reece Webb in the air for a red card, and McCusker for stamping on someone. So two people who both played for the Ospreys at some point. One in the future, one in the
Well, I have
past.
to say, going through the highlights, if you go through the highlights of all these games in chronological order, you do it's the same players. They just turn from red jerseys to black jerseys at some point.
This match, of course, a young George North on the wing and Liam Williams, actually. This is only 2012, and to say like these were young men, you remember Wales won the Grand Slam. Wales won the title this year, the Six Nations title.
In 2012, it was a Grand Slam.
Yeah, no, 2012. Yeah, 2012 was the Grand Slam. No, right. 2013 was the title. I keep thinking
my favourite Welsh Grand Slam, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, same here actually. But some of the players for Scarlets, I'm like, I forgot you existed. So you had a really good backline actually. Aled Davis, Aled Thomas, who I don't remember at all, but Christian Phillips, who I thought was incredibly underrated. Scott Williams, Jonathan Davis at the peak of their powers, arguably. And then George North, Liam Williams. I mean that's a Scarlets back. That's a proper backline for Scarlets.
Yeah.
But then you had Phil John, Matthew Rees, Samson Lee, Jake Ball, and George Earl, who I remember liking George Earl because he's a proper gnarly, horrible second row. And then Josh Turnbull, Aaron Shingle, and Kieran Murphy, who I don't remember. I don't know
heard of him.
But this is if you ask anyone really what the Ospreys team was in 20, this is like what a lot of people remember because everyone remembers like the Galactical
2012.
ones.
Can I guess? Can I try guessing?
Go on, try and guess. We'll start at 15.
Start at 15. 2012. So Lee Byrne's gone to Claremont by this point.
Lee Byrne has gone to Claremont.
So is it Dan Evans?
No, Dan Evans came in like 2014. I'll give you a hint. He's a backs coach at the Ospreys now. An oxymoron.
Oh no, the only coach of yours that I can name apart from Toby Booth is Mark Jones.
It's Richard Fussell.
Oh, okay, Richard Fussell.
You won't get one of the wingers because this was again an oxymoron. He never really played, but it was Ross Jones. Who were the centres? 2012 Ospreys.
I might be a few years out. I want to say Andrew Bishop.
Andrew Bishop was at 13, the man who never missed a tackle.
Oof.
Who was inside centre?
It wasn't. It wouldn't have been Hook.
No, Hook was gone.
He was He was firmly a 10 during this phase.
Yeah.
I don't know because Wales was obviously Fox and Jamie.
Who was the other 12 knocking on the door of Wales at that time?
I only remember really Scott Williams being the other one compared to them.
It was Ashley Beck.
Oh yes, of course. I was about to say Josh Matavesi.
No, he was a bit later. He was again 2014.
Ashley Beck, Bryden Thunder.
Yes, he's a fantastic coach. Worcester legend as well.
A team that we both have to support because they're an amalgamation of the Ospreys and the Scarlets.
They are. Who was it? Who else was the wing? Who was the other winger? We talked about him earlier.
Eli Walker.
It was Eli Walker. 10 you should get very easily.
Dan Bigger.
This is peak Dan Bigger. This is peak shoulder pads and quiff Dan Bigger as well. When you had them obscene like Lady Gaga shoulder pads, which were like up here.
You say peak Dan Bigger. I did a thread on Dan Bigger. I think Dan Bigger's peak was 2021.
I meant maybe an Ospreys jersey then.
Okay. So yeah, Dan Bigger.
Who was it? 9 and captain? No.
It wasn't the Fijian guy.
It was Khan Fatwali.
I knew he had one of those names.
Yeah.
Yes, because he played for the Barbarians against the Lions in 2013 in Hong Kong.
He did. Yes, he did.
I think all the really important and useful knowledge I don't have because I do know that.
Luke said prop.
Paul James.
No, Ryan Bevington.
Oh, yes. God, he was a Wales Online favourite, wasn't he?
Yeah, man also heavily into crypto. Hooker.
Good luck to him. I do know. Richard Hibbard.
Richard Hibbard. Tight head prop.
Adam Jones.
Yeah, the only man who played prop for the Ospreys for about 10 years. Who were the second rows?
Was it Ian Evans and Alan Jones?
No, they were not in the team.
Ooh, okay. I don't know then.
So it would have been Ian Goff, who was
he
at
still
the end of
around?
his career. He was still around.
It wouldn't have been Ryan Jones at that point, would it?
Ryan Jones is in the team. He's at 6.
He's at 6.
It's James King. So
yeah, he was.
weirdly they went
Devlin
for
tried
King.
to play him at 8.
Well, he was an 8. This is the thing. It's just we always had better 8s. But James King was very much like a Josh Turnbull in that he would play anywhere. Very underrated player. Ryan Jones at 7 was Tibbs. And then number 8, he was in my Streets Won't Forget 15. The Cornish legend, Joe Bierman.
Yeah, Joe Bierman.
And then
that's only Hanno Dirksen away from being your ultimate team, isn't it?
Well, as well as Alan Wynne Jones and Ian Evans. On the bench, Scott Baldwin, Duncan Jones near the end of his career, Kai Griffiths, London Welsh director of rugby, Lloyd Piers, who is Lloyd Ashley.
Oh yes, I remember now.
Morgan Allen, very underrated player. Rhys Webb was on the bench. Matthew Morgan, Andy Howell's favourite player. Should
Best
be
10 Wales has ever produced, according to Andy Howell.
And then Tom Isaacs.
Never heard of him.
22. This was before 23. Of course, refereed by Nigel Owens.
Of course.
With Derek Bevan as TM. They were inseparable. And it was the only thing. I think
Nigel should still be allowed to referee this game.
Yeah.
I say allowed. I bet if Nigel rang up the URC tomorrow and said, I fancy coming back, they'd be like, yeah. And you come, they'd be like, Chris Busby, get your bike.
Who would I rather? Sam Grove White has an agenda against Cardiff, or Nigel Owens?
Listeners, that's a joke. Sam Grove White
does not have an agenda.
Imagine thinking that Sam Groves White gives a shit about Cardiff.
That was a good fun trip down memory lane. That was actually a really fun nostalgia trip. I'm going to do more of that. But let's very quickly because we are. Go on. You have one more.
No, I looked up because watching all these highlights from games like even just like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, God, our team used to be mint. What happened to them all? And so I looked up the team that we had when we won the Champions Cup quarterfinal against La Rochelle.
Here we go.
For all the Ospreys listening, yes, you are allowed to win European quarterfinals occasionally.
You're allowed to win scrums as well, Huw, but it doesn't stop you.
So of the team that we had on that day, players who still play for us, Scott Williams, Steph Evans, Gareth Davis, Ken Owens, Ryan Elias, Josh McLeod, and Dan Jones. Ooh. They're the only 7 players of that 23 who are still on the books of the Scarlets.
Wow. Who else would have been in that team? See if I can name the team. When was this now? 2017?
This was, it would have been 2018 by the time the game was played. It was 17-18 season.
So, right. Prop would have been... Right.
Yeah, come on. Scarlet's
so prop would have been Wynne Jones?
No. Hang on. Nope. The other one.
Who's the other one? Oh, Rob Evans.
Yes.
So Rob Evans, Ken.
Yes.
Samson.
Yeah.
Second rows would have been... Oh, Christ, who was your second rows? That was Ty Byrne.
Yep.
And Jack Price?
No.
No. Is it a famous
Plays
one?
in Japan now.
Oh, Jake Ball. Jake Ball?
No.
No. Christ, who plays in Japan now?
David Bullbring.
Oh, yes, of course. Didn't he post weird fitness stuff on Instagram there? Anyway, that might be divergent. Anyway, back row would have been Cubby.
Yep.
John Barkley.
Yep.
And who was it? 8 for you?
No, you've skipped 6.
Oh, I skipped 6. Would that have been Josh McLeod then? No. Is he end up non-Welsh qualified?
No, he's very much Welsh qualified. Was on the bench for the 30 points to 3 game.
Oh God, I know this team off by heart as well.
Me too.
Ken, Paul James. I'm having to go through it off the top of my head. Who the hell was it?
Mentioned him before.
Rob McCusker? No, not Rob McCusker, is it?
He played for the Barbarians against Wales earlier this year.
Barbarians. Oh, Shingler, yeah.
Yes.
The Bald Menace.
Yes.
9, Cowdor.
Yes.
10 would have been. Is that still Patchell?
Yep.
Steph Evans on the wing.
Yep.
Centres Scott. No, was that Scott or Hadley? Scott? Hadley.
You're allowed 2 centres in a team.
Yeah, but Foxy surely is 13.
Foxy was injured.
Foxy, so it's Scott and Hadley then.
Yes.
Okay.
Scott at 13 scored a try.
Okay, Scott at 13 scored a try. Hadley at 12. Other wing, would that
Now, okay,
be
right. We talked about him earlier. Legendary utility back.
Paul Asquith?
Yeah.
The hero, and then 15 Sanjay.
No.
Oh no, Sanjay was in Saracens at this point, wasn't he? Was it Halfpenny?
It was.
Yes, I keep forgetting. So, right, Liam Williams at Saracens is a fever dream. I'm telling you. Even though he played really well at Saracens, every time I get like a rash when I break out.
And then on the bench was. Are you going to try and guess the bench?
So, oh God, I might be right. So one of
I'll
them's
be honest,
obviously
there's one on here. The replacement Lucid. I don't know who he is.
Who is the replacement Lucid?
It's down as D Evans. I assume it's David Evans. Can't be another Dan Evans.
Not a clue.
No.
So Elias.
Okay. Yeah.
Werner Kruger.
Yeah. Well done.
19. Is he probably a young one? Is it like Jack
Shares
Price?
the same surname as someone called Henry.
Who the hell would that have been?
Lewis Rawlins.
Oh yeah. Was it Kasim? Was he a knocker at this point?
Lewis Rawlins. I don't know.
Who is replacement flanker at this point? Who was 20?
Went on to play for Cardiff. Wore a scrum cap. Very stocky.
Oh, Will Boyd.
Yep.
Yeah, always wore an undershirt that didn't match
so
whatever kit.
Can I shock you? We've actually got a 6-2 split.
Okay.
It's very un-Scarlets.
So who was the other one?
So the other one was it. You've already guessed him as for being in the starting team.
Barkley.
No, Barkley was in the starting team.
No, Barkley was in the starting team. Who was it? I can't remember who I guessed now.
Current club captain.
Oh, physio man himself, Josh McLeod.
Correct.
The Spanish Steve Tandy.
Yep.
And then would have been Kieran Hardy. Was he
around
yet? No, not yet. Who was your backup scrum half?
You signed him.
Oh, Alid.
Yeah.
Then 10 would have been. It's too early for Ryan Lamb, is it?
It's not Ryan Lamb.
No, I couldn't tell you who the backup 10 was at Scarlets at the time.
Still on the books. Dinky.
Oh, he must have been young.
I think this is when people were still. He had just come out of the under-20s.
Yes, he came out of the Dynasty under-20s squad, didn't he? Because he was Ruben Morgan-Williams in his 9 under-20s.
Yeah, it was a bit like Sam Davis, where everyone kept saying he's under-20s player of the year, until he was about 32.
Sam Davis I maintain the wasted talent at that point.
Who was Sam Davis's 9 in the under-20s?
Oh, Cowdor, wasn't it?
Roger Williams.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, because he still had the same haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched that game recently, actually. And then the 23...
The 23 was Dan Jones. We had a 60 split.
Dan Jones. Oh, yeah, 60 split. Wow. That is a good team. Right, we need to wrap it up very quickly. Very quickly, how do you feel about the West Wales derby coming up?
Whenever I predict Welsh derbies, I always live by this mantra. Welsh derbies make no sense, and the wrong team always wins. So the question is who is the wrong team? And I think that the Scarlets are the wrong team. So I think we're going to.
Well, I've just read on X, formerly known as Twitter, that is forecasted light rain. Does this change your?
That's not good. I was listening
This is
to.
why I said that. This is why
I was listening to Scrum of the Earth earlier, and David on that, who's wonderful, said. He said of the Scarlets Black Lion game, if the fans were hoping to see drizzle and disappointment, they got it. No, it wasn't a disappointment. It was drizzle and futility. That's what they got. So yes, it raining is not good for us. We cannot do lineouts and we cannot do scrums. And there's not much the Ospreys can do, but you can do those two things.
No, I agree. I pretty much think
like
the
I
same.
say, Welsh derbies make no sense.
Yeah, they agree. They'll make no sense. I hate going to Bark Scarlets. We always lose. It's been 9 years. I still think if it rains, though, I think we will win. Purely off set piece alone. Unless Harry O'Connor has done
Scott Williams to do a cross kick to Josh McLeod this
no.
time. Imagine they're both fit and imagine they're both playing. Imagine they do it again.
My God, can you imagine? I reckon you don't announce them at all, and then the Stone Cold Steve Austin music plays, and both Josh McLeod.
By God, that's the Scott Williams music.
Cracks 2 protein drinks and then pours them on his head. Not that it matters because of injuries. Iestyn has sent me his predicted squad. So this is Iestyn's predicted squad for the weekend. At 15, Jack Walsh. 14, Luke Morgan. 13, Owen Watkin. 12, Kieran Williams. 11, Keelan Giles. 10, Owen Williams. 9, Ruben Morgan Williams. Into the forwards, Gareth Thomas, Dewi Lake, Tom Butter, James Fender, Adam Beard, Rhys Davis, Jack Morgan, and Morgan Morris. So essentially the same front row pack that beat you at the Swans.com. On the bench then, Sam Parry, Rhys Henry, Ben Warren, Harry Deeves, Tristan Davis. So, it's a 5-3 split. Luke Davis, Dan Edwards, and Matthew Provorou. If fit, that's
what is the point in having Matthew Provorou on the bench? What does that help with?
I'd start him. I'd start him over Giles, to be honest. I don't think he actually did anything wrong out in Montpellier. I actually thought Matt Provorou was quite decent. And he's just a bundle of energy. Rhys Henry covering loose head.
Is Matt Provorou the same guy who got thrown like a frisbee by Harrison Keddy in an under-20s match?
Probably.
Because he played for England.
Yeah, because Matt Provorou was England under-20s, Yeah, you are right. Only because because that was the rule where you had to, even though you were Welsh, had to play for England because you were playing in England or you were a student there. Because that's what happened to Moriarty. Yeah, I can't see anything different.
And also, what happened to Nick Tompkins? He never wanted to play for England.
No, never wanted to play for Wales as well. But look at that happen. Hugh, do you have any suggestions for the Scarlets team?
I can do what I would pick, and then there's what Dwayne will pick, and I don't think we would pick the same because Dwayne will pick Steph Evans, and I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you'd fire Steph Evans
out of a cannon. Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, you'd terminate his contract.
Oh, come on, let's not be mean. So I would go, if it was me, I'd go Steph Thomas, loose heads. I'd go.
Yeah.
I can't really choose between Ryan Elias and Sean Evans. It doesn't really
I'd go Sean Evans. Ryan Elias is not playing well.
No. He played really, really, really well against the Lions, and he's clearly used up all his playing well for the year.
I actually thought Sean Evans ran quite well against Black Lion. I thought he was one of the only forwards to look like he made an effort. Yeah. No, I quite like
him. Tight head. Oh, Jesus. Harry O'Connor.
Yeah. Freedom of Carmarthenshire won a penalty against the Black Lion.
He did.
And then got yellow carded.
That wasn't his yellow card, though. It was Joe Joyce's yellow card.
Joe Joyce. Joe Jones.
Joe Jones, sorry. Joe Joyce plays for Connor.
Second row.
Second row. If he's sorry, go on.
Does he put Lousy straight back in?
I would. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with Fafita. I don't like him at 6. I used to think that 6 was his best position. I don't think that anymore.
He was an All Black at 6, wasn't he?
He was, but
and he was a 6
for
at
us.
Wasps.
Yes, for us, I think he's either a second row or an 8. At times against Black Lion, Fafita was playing second row and back row at the same time.
But that's because the scrum was going backwards at a rate of knots, and he just ended up in the second row.
Yeah.
That wasn't our choice. That was necessity.
Yeah. So I would probably Alex Craig is no brainer, and then I'd go Lousy next to him if Lousey's fit, and then I go Ben Williams number 6, our Lord and Saviour Teddy Latherbarrow at number 7, and then Fafita at number 8.
Tasty.
Vare might be injured actually. He went off injured against Black Lion, or maybe he just couldn't live with the shame.
I think it was the latter.
And if he's not there to play number 8, then it's got to be Carwyn. 9, Gareth Davis, easy. 10, if he is indeed a 10.
Just wearing number 10.
The man who will be wearing number 10 on his back, Johan Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, no, this is the team that I would do, isn't it? No, So I play Charlie Titcombe at number 10. I put Titcombe at 10 and put Lloyd back to 15. Because Lloyd can catch a high ball. He can do everything that you need to be a 15. He just wears number 10.
And he knows where to stand them, like Johnny McNichol.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd probably move McNichol out to the wing. I don't know. Him and Tom is a bit samey. So I'd go Eddie James at 12, and I'd go Joe Roberts at 13.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Tom deserves to keep his place on the wing. I've toyed with the idea of putting Johnny Williams on the wing, even though that's completely never been tried before.
You have spoken.
Even though that's never been tried before, and I've got no data to back it up, I feel like that would work.
What I would say is Scarlets have got a form for this. Because remember, they once put Hadley Parks at 10 for a West Wales derby. That did not go well. It's
because Pivac basically outed Dan Jones of being a saloon door in defence. And was like, and they said, why have you picked Hadley Parks at 10? And he went, because Dan Jones can't tackle, is basically what he said. So that's what I would pick. I don't think Damon Pearl will pick anything like that. God knows where he'll pick Fafita. He's probably going, well, he's played at 6, he's played at second row, he's played at 8, so I'll pick him at loose head this week. And then he'll pick Johan at 10, he'll probably pick Steph Evans, and then God knows what he'll do with the midfield.
It's really weird because you might as well only play with 22 players because Charlie Titcombe is getting such little game time. You're like, what is the point of him existing, essentially? Yeah. Because if this was a Scarlets of old, you're like, oh, well, he'll play against the Italian teams or he'll play against Edinburgh or something like that. There's no easy game.
Like,
he is good. He's a good player.
From the very, very little game time that he's had, he's impressed me.
And actually, when he was on against Black Lion, he took the ball to the line quite well. They played wider off 10 than they did with Johan.
And he kicks.
So, is the West Wales derby the best one to start him in? Probably not. For vibes, I think we should go Charlie Titcombe versus Dan Edwards.
I'd love that.
Just scrap everything off and have vibes.
Yeah.
I think that would be perfect. So give me a quick.
Do you know how many times Gareth Davis kicked against Black Lion?
Not enough, I'm going to say.
Once.
Yeah, that says it all. Their fullback was quite handy, though. I'll give him that. The Black Lion one.
Decent team.
Give me a score prediction.
You
said Scarlets by 40 in the Scarlets Fever, but now you've heard
rain. You've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, that's to appease Martin.
No, Martin only said Scarlets by 20.
What a fraud!
West Wales derbies make no sense. Scarlets by 12.
12. I am going to stick with Ospreys by 2. I think it'll be a very penalty-heavy game, although we're more inclined to kick for the corner. And then I know we haven't. I'm sorry, Cardiff fans. I might record a bonus pod on my own towards the new year, looking at the Cardiff game. Ospreys v Cardiff in New Year's Day. It's really hard to predict a game that hasn't happened. That's 2 games away because we don't know what's going to happen in this one. All I know is none of this running rugby bollocks is going to be played in Bridgend. It will be strictly in the tight 5. Anything that goes past Tina Stabia will be met with severe booing. None of this. But if you defend like you did against Bath, it's going to be very easy for the Ospreys.
If they defend like they did against Bath, it will make no difference because your backs don't touch the ball.
Well, no. What I was going to say is our pack is going to have a field day because they'll just walk over the line.
Reece Henry will be making 10 line breaks.
Yeah, Reece Henry will go past Tinas to be like he's not even there. Huw, thank you very much for stepping in.
Can I very quickly, as a parting gift to you, give you my favourite Cardiff versus Ospreys moment?
Oh yes, please do.
When Gareth Anscombe missed that kick at goal at the Millennium, but the touch just put their flags up anyway,
and then signed for the Ospreys straight after.
Yeah. To be fair to the touch judges, it did curl and it did land behind the posts, but he did miss.
My favourite one is actually from last year at the Cardiff Arms Park, where Ethan Roots makes a perfectly legal tackle on Liam Williams, and Liam Williams flops around like he's been shot, and then Ethan Roots gets a yellow card. And the pod will know I love Ethan Roots. I think he's the best non-Welsh qualified player that's been brought in over the last couple of years, bar Callum Mahoney. In the short amount of time he was here, he made such an impact that he's now less ex the starting open side. In a very good Exeter team, a very powerful Exeter team.
Exeter team that's won a couple of games recently. It doesn't matter.
So, anyway, that was brilliant. Also, Reece Webb's interception try where he basically walks to the line again in that beautiful all-white kit. It comes off. It's a Priestland goes to spin the ball out wide, and honestly, I think I could have caught it and ran it in. And it was just like you could watch Reece Priestland just flops his arms down, and his soul is destroyed. More of that, please. And there was one more ahead of my head. Isaiah Natonga, I think it's in 2013, a Fijian winger that the Ospreys had for 20 games or whatever. Scored a hat trick against Cardiff Blues and then didn't do anything else the time he was there. But I remember that game because I was sat in the corner of the stadium and in the one bit that's uncovered and just got soaked. But it was all worth it because Isaiah Natonga scored a hat trick. This has been the Ospreys Eyrie. Huw, where can we find you on socials?
At Huw Griffin Rugby on Twitter. If you follow the big trail of abuse, I'm at the end of that. Or you can search Pirate Rugby Podcast on YouTube and give us a few likes and a few shares.
You also may or may not run the Scarlet Fever Twitter account. Is this right?
I occasionally do. I'm learning the rules. I tweeted something earlier today, and Lee sent me a WhatsApp saying we don't tweet things like that. Okay. So,
you can find me at James Reese 8 on Twitter for the personal stuff, where you'll mainly find ramblings about video games and sport. And then I run the Ospreys Eyrie Twitter account. We've been getting some good stuff on there recently. Find us on YouTube. Look at the rap stuff. Christmas quizzes. Yep, if you've made it with us,
Christmas quizzes.
Check out the Christmas quizzes. They're all belting. Lee, Huw, Carwyn all smashed it out of the park. The Ospreys one is very, very fun. I've done it, even though I submitted half the questions myself. Things are looking good. Content-wise, we're looking at doing some stuff, sitting down with the Ospreys very soon. I've been in contact with them, and they're all more than happy to sit down with us. Squid Rugby messaged me last night with some mad plans that he has as well. So stuff is going to be taken off soon, hopefully. But thank you all so much for your support this year. We see all the messages, we see all the DMs, we see all the tweets. It makes such a huge difference to us. It makes our day. Other than that, this has been 2023. have a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate it, and have a wonderful New Year. And we'll see you in 2024. Thank you so much.